Hello, how you guys doing? James here. Let me get myself put here, man. So I wanted to show you a quick video of some pretty interesting comments recently. And it's a touchy subject, but in America, we like to dance over things and red, white, and blue, and things are in the past. And this time is better now than ever, and um, we've heard it, right? And with some people that might be, but
Expensive than ever,
let me show you
especially
something.
energy.
So basically, anytime black people have something to ourselves, them folks want to be all up in our business. And speaking of which, there's a white woman on TikTok, seems like she deleted her account, that's getting dragged for one, being up in our business and being a salty hater. Check it out.
I want to ask black people, how would you feel if white people held an event every year on the coast, the South Coast, Gulf Coast, and we called it White Beach Weekend? And black people weren't allowed to attend this event.
So as you saw and heard her ask, well, how would you all feel, you all being black people, if white people decided to have a white beach weekend? Now, that's in response to Black Beach Weekend. From what I understand, it's some sort of a spring break where black beach goers go and party. Now, listen, I looked it up. If you're a prude like me, I don't suggest you do. Now, they're having fun, but there's some other stuff going on, but I digress. So, she wanted to know how we would feel. It's like we wouldn't feel anything because we're not really paying attention to you all like that. But since you feel a certain type of way about black people having an event, everywhere y'all go, y'all try to make it exclusively for you, including in other places. I think it was Belize, where the locals had to turn up because y'all tried to rope off the beach, talk about nobody else could be there, and they was like, oh, for real? And they said every time y'all being them folks are there, we gonna be here too because the beach belongs to us. Same thing in Jamaica. Y'all go over there and get tanned all up and want to rope off the beach, talking about y'all can't come over here. Y'all being the people who already live there, Jamaicans, right? So y'all do it everywhere you go. You have these resorts. There's a whole beach, Bruce Beach in Los Angeles, that was taken from black people and commandeered by people who look like that white woman who was asking how they feel that way. Yeah, y'all got beaches everywhere that we can't go to. But yet, because black people want to rope off something and it's a weekend. It ain't like they took the beach like y'all taking the beaches. They took a weekend partying and they going back to their black lives. But you feel a certain, how would you feel that way? We don't care. We don't feel anything. In fact, if you like me, we ain't even trying to be all up and around y'all like that. Now listen, back in the day, Demetra K, yes I did try to rhyme. I went to the club, yes I did. I was at the club every weekend when I was 19 and 20. Now when I had my daughter, the club stopped. But when I was up in there, hitting the Cabbage Patch and my rayons and my cross colors and all that, there was always one or two white girls on the black side. Because the club I went to, it had like a white side where, they was doing rock and roll and stuff. And there was a black side where we was doing what black people do. And everywhere you look, or every time you look rather, there was a white girl or two or a home girl up in there just all up in there. I was like, damn, we can't have nothing for ourselves. So how would we feel? We don't care. But if we had to feel a certain way, we don't like it. What we don't like is when you come to our areas and try to take it and tell us we can't be where we already are. Like, what are we supposed to do? Just poof, disappear? So, ain't no reason for you to be salty. You could go on any beach in America. Sure, there's a lot of white beaches where if I was to go as a black woman, I would get looked at funnier, or I would even be asked, I'm sorry, do you live here? I bet you there's a lot of places in Martha's Vineyard somewhere. If I was to go and, spread out my beach towel with my ice cooler, I wouldn't be there long before somebody looked like her would come up to me and is like, oh, do you live here? Do you know somebody here? Y'all get me up out of there so fast. So stop worrying about what we doing on a weekend. And worry about your people going and taking whole beaches from black people all over the world. So anyway, y'all tell me what you think of that. And for more insightful commentary,
Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. So I will say that if you are an immigrant to the United States, and it doesn't matter if you're legal or illegal, you're coming here under false advertising, because I believe the narrative that people are getting around the world is that America is free to everybody, you're safe, and everybody is welcome. I believe that that is the narrative that people are getting, because that's how they behave when they get here. I also believe that they've gotten a narrative that the only problems in the United States of America are problems that are created by black people. So people then come here to be on the side of the white people. Okay, no harm, no foul. But they don't get the underlying system that's at work in America, and that is the system of racism. So racism is alive and well in America, but it is hurtful. It is harsh, and nobody wants to deal with it. So if you are a non-white person coming to America through immigration, legal or illegal, the only way that you're going to really understand it is it has to hit you in the face, and you have to get that wake-up call. And apparently, everybody has to get it on an individual level, because they don't learn from each other. For instance, Indians wouldn't learn from Ann Coulter telling Vivek Ramaswamy that she wouldn't vote for him because he was Indian. See, the other Indians wouldn't get that. Everybody gotta have the individual wake-up call. And this is not something that America should be proud of, but it is the reality of living in America. And not to say that all Americans are racist. I'm not gonna say that, but enough of them are for it to be a problem in this country. This is J.D. Vance and his wife. Donald Trump has selected J.D. Vance to be Vice President nominee for the Republican Party. Now, his wife is Indian, and here comes the wake-up call.
J.D. Vance also has a non-white wife, an Indian wife, and a kid named Vivek. All his kids have Indian names. So it's like, what exactly are we getting here? And that's not a dig at him just because I'm a racist or something. But it's like, who is this guy really? Do we really expect that the guy who has an Indian wife and named their kid Vivek is going to support white identity? Like, there's a white genocide going on in the world. White people are being systematically replaced in America and Europe through immigration, and to a much lesser extent due to intermarrying. This guy has a non-white wife and a kid named Vivek. This guy is going to be a defender of white identity? I don't think so. This guy's going to defend American identity? If he does, it's going to be no better than any of these other civic nationalists like Vivek Ramaswamy. How else could you countenance American identity if you have a mixed up family like that?
This is Nick Fuentes, and he made clear what his concerns are. He is concerned about white identity, and that does not include an Indian. Now, the Indians call themselves Caucasians, but as one content creator said, they might be Caucasians, but they're not white. So you see where this is going. This is right-wing conservative commentator Matt Walsh, and he is also disappointed and disapproves of a vice presidential nominee being married to an Indian woman, saying that marriage to an Indian woman was a sign of cultural decline. The right-wingers are also referencing the fact that there is a low birth rate among white people globally. They are calling it a genocide, but it's really not a genocide. It's a genocide when somebody else wipes out your population. Nobody is wiping out their population. They just have a low birth rate. They are not having enough children. And the rest of us really don't have anything to do with that. But they feel like J.D. Vance ought to be doing something to help the problem, not doing something to contribute to the decline of white people in America. So here's a headline from Newsweek magazine. MAGA makes racist attacks against J.D. Vance's wife. See? All that being a model minority and going to school and making these high test scores and making the most money, Indians, they say, are the highest earning immigrants in the United States, and all that practicing to be white just to get to the Republican National Convention and have a racist attack made on you because you're not white. This article says extremist figures and members of the Make America Great Again movement have criticized the wife of Ohio Senator J.D. Vance after former President Donald Trump named him as his running mate in the 2024 election. It's really not fair to criticize this woman. If they were going to criticize somebody, it should be Donald Trump for picking someone who was married to a non-white woman. And then J.D. Vance knows how these people are. He's from Ohio, from Appalachia, so he knows how they are. So it's on him that he will put his wife through that. That's how I see it. Usher Vance, the daughter of Indian immigrants, was raised in San Diego before meeting her husband at Yale Law School. They were married in 2014 and later blessed by a Hindu pundit in a separate ceremony, the New York Times reported. In the wake of Trump's vice presidential announcement on Monday, numerous conservatives and far-right figures have taken to social media to launch racist attacks against Usher Vance because of her Indian heritage and the assumption that her influence on her husband's political career means the Republican Party will be softer on immigration. I'm sure this guy's going to be great on immigration. Jaden McNeil, a far-right activist and the founder of America First Students, wrote on X, formerly Twitter, while sharing a picture of the Vances with their newborn baby. So they gonna weaponize the baby too. It's really kind of awful. Nick Fuentes, a white supremacist who visited Trump at his Mar-a-Lago home along with rapper Kanye West in November 2022, suggested that Vance would not be a defender of white identity because of his wife's Indian heritage. And I played that video at the beginning of this video. So these white nationalists are not making any secret about how they feel about this marriage and this vice presidential pick. Vincent James Fox, who was present at the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, wrote on X, J.D. Vance gets tapped as VP, and immediately there's a Hindu prayer at the RNC. Next, we'll see Senator Mike Lee and J.D. Vance team up to convince Trump to let in 10 million Indian immigrants. Green cards on diplomas. Well, the white conservatives and white nationalists and Make America Great Againers are not pleased with the fact that the vice president nominee's wife is of Indian descent, because now they have expanded their dislike to include religions that are not Christianity. So the Indians are mostly Hindus, and this woman is a Hindu. So now they've decided they don't want any Hindus in the neighborhood. They don't want any Hindus in government. So all of this is going to be very interesting for us to see how it all shakes out, and I shall be getting a front row seat to see. Okay, y'all?
Here at the Y, we're reps that you put in.
You can never get rid of. Period. You ain't cutting it. And either you're going to look all the way like them folks, or you don't. And y'all never will. You will never all the way look like them. The vast majority of you never will. So you can join in and agree with them all you want. It ain't going to do you no good at the end of the day. And if you don't believe it, go look at how many of these folks with farms treated those migrants. They treated them like trash. That's why so many of them would just up and walk away and abandon these people with their farms, and then they would end up losing out during the harvest. They didn't have enough people to harvest the crop because they treat them like garbage. So for some reason y'all think you got some major leg up in here, and you really don't. So let's get into the story. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, one defining thing I notice whenever the topic of reparations come up, these folks talk as if the black community have not paid any taxes. We would actually be paying our own reparations through this government as well, because our community have been paying taxes since they've been working legally out here. So it's amazing how they don't want their tax dollars coming towards the reparations, but our tax dollars that black people also paid into is paying for these immigrants. It's paying for the war in Israel. It's paying for Ukraine. Your black tax dollars are paying for that too. It's paying for reparations for all these Native Indians, Holocaust victims, getting money from the American government. And guess what? We did not have a thing to do with any of those issues as well. But our tax money still went towards that. And when y'all say you weren't a slave, that is the dumbest comment in the world. Many of these people getting checks, they weren't in the Holocaust. They're offspring. Many of these natives that are getting money, they weren't in the Trail of Tears. It's the offspring. The slaves weren't supposed to get the reparations. Their descendants are supposed to get those reparations, just like it is in any other group that gets reparations. It's the descendants. So if you want to question us about being slaves, how come you're not questioning the Native Indians, asking how come you gotta pay them? They're not laying in a mass grave. How come you're not saying that crap to them? Because at the end of the day, y'all, it's all about race. We are the one group they never wanted to give to. They don't want to pay for all the labor that they benefited from and still benefit from. Mass incarceration. they don't want to right the wrongs of the past, and and that's fine and good. But the next time something happens and they want us to join hand in hand, immediately tell them no and use their language back on them. Tell them, I don't have nothing to do with those wars going on overseas. I didn't start the war in Ukraine. I didn't start the war between Israel and Hamas. I didn't start. So start using that language back on them. When they're looking for your support, start using that language back on them. Well, why should we fight for this country? We don't have nothing to do with not one single war that was fought. Y'all started all the wars. So start using the I don't have nothing to do with language when they're in need. Just start using that from now on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will get started so you can see exactly what this live stream is all about. It's amazing. Everybody wants our help, but then when we need our reparations, they're very vocal about being against it. So I'm going to be very vocal about not being there for them when they're in need, and I'm going to be very vocal about it.
Goodness, ripe for the picking. Hand-breaded chicken, perfect for dipping ice cream.
Okay, please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Give me a 1 if you can see the screen. Thank you. All right, let's get started.
To be honest, I'm concerned about the proposal to help facilitate the distribution of reparations. Economists, consultants from the task force reported the total amount could be as much as $800 billion. $800 billion. That's 2.5 times the size of our entire state budget. To pay for that, you'd need a major tax hike, unlike anything this state has ever seen before. I recognize and acknowledge the painful part of our history. The pains of our past should not be paid by the people of today. The majority of our state is Latino and Asian, making up 55% of our population. Most of them, like me, are first, second, or third generation immigrants who had nothing to do with slavery, discrimination, Jim Crow laws, nothing. It is fundamentally unfair to force these people to pay for this, and because of that, I will be opposing today.
Senator Ryan.
Yeah, I just want to thank our Republican colleagues for coming to committee today. After boycotting the previous committee, it's really important to go on the record and formally oppose reparations, so I want to thank them for doing so.
Any other questions or comments? I want to thank Senator Bradford once again for bringing this forward. Again, as I said earlier, it's one thing if you have a commissioner report, what have you. The reality is that actions are necessary, and that includes reparations. It includes, in some cases, monetary reparations. There's many different ways and different forms that can take place, as the commission report recommends. It's not going to come out of an $800 billion balloon payment from the state budget, but at the end of the day, compensation is necessary. I understand that it's hard to ask those of us currently sitting in the legislature to make those commitments, but no one asked black families over generations if it was okay to take their wealth, if it was okay to enslave them, if it was okay to put their children in generations of poverty. This country became a superpower based upon free labor of African descendants over hundreds of years. We need to recognize it. I know it's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy to actually admit when you've caused pain. It's not supposed to be easy when you actually try to repair and heal that pain. And yes, we do benefit. We still benefit to this day from what happened to our brothers and sisters in the black community over so many generations.
Okay. So you heard that. Yes. That was a Latino woman. And like I said, see, these folks are trying to please their white handlers. That's what this is all about. So they see them as the winning team, and that's the side they want to be on. And that's fine and good. But what they don't get, and what all of them don't get, is we've paid those tax dollars too. And if we get reparations, part of the tax dollars that we paid into it also comes back to us. These folks didn't pay taxes by themselves, but they talk to us as if they did. And besides, why are we constantly having these I'm not going to pay reparations conversations anyway? That comes from the government. These people that are up in your face, they talk like this is stuff that's going to come out directly out of their pocket. Everybody that got reparations, the government paid the reparations. They didn't knock on your door and ask you to give to a reparations fund. But some of y'all talk like that's how it's going to be. I even had one say, oh, well, it's going to be harder for black people. Oh, okay. So you're saying you're going to go out of your way to make life even harder for black people. That just sounds like a bunch of racist talk. That's what that sounds like. But at the end of the day, y'all, it's never a problem with giving any forms of money, even to people that were not born and raised in these countries, that they're climbing the fence to get into. It's okay to give anybody money except for us. And you can tell they came up with this centuries ago. They did. When they set the slaves free, they already determined we are not going to give them anything. We're not going to give them nothing because y'all all say the same damn thing. You can tell it was taught to you. It was taught. But at the end of the day, every time something happens, where's the black community? Why aren't the black people helping us? Why are the black people so quiet? And like I said, then as soon as they say that stuff, we go into the same song and dance. We don't have nothing to do with what's going on. We didn't start it. It didn't happen from us. So I know how to deal with you. I know how to deal with all of you. Migrants, citizens, all of you. So, you can't expect a devil to want to right their wrongs when we know they were bred to be evil. And if you're bred to be evil, you're never going to have a heart. So, we ain't worried about that block of ice you call a heart to change. We know it won't. You can't teach a demon to be good.
No.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you hear what she said. Now, she is what, a second generation Latino? And why are immigrants in our business? That's what I want to know. Why are they all up in our business? If you didn't have nothing to do with it, this should not be a topic for you to be weighing in on. Why are you all up in our business? But you see, ladies and gentlemen, the illegals, the naturalized, and the stolen land citizens all agree on one thing. They all agree on one thing. And like I said, that you weren't a slave. I don't know where y'all must have pulled that one out of your ass. That's stupid. I can say that about any group that got reparations and still get it to this very day, that they weren't the same people that went through anything, but their descendants. That's what reparations is for, the descendants. So y'all, now you know. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter whether they were born and raised here or they're a stolen land generation of people, aka colonizers. They all think the same when it comes down to us. Never lose sight of that. No wonder why the Most High is going to have to do a worldwide cleansing on these people. So, I'm going to go ahead and conclude.
Now, some people have said they've seen some cartoons of my work on the internet that have been presented, and that it pretty well embellishes what I have been trying to say in my textbooks. And to the extent that it does that, well, that has been, from what I understand, some people reported to me, a plus. Because they didn't understand what I had written very well, but when they saw those cartoons that just repeated what I was saying and attaching my name to it, and came right out of the book, the material did, they say that they better understood it. And I can understand that because people are kind of visual, particularly in the year 2021 now, more visual than ever. On every job situation for a non-white person in the system of white supremacy, when you speak sparingly. You don't say any more than is absolutely necessary to be said in order to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in the best manner. And the best way to always speak, if you can frame whatever you say, because it comes down to how you're speaking most of the time. Whatever you say, try to put it in the form of a question rather than statements. Statements sometimes are resisted, particularly coming from a black person among white people. You start making statements immediately. Many white people, not all, but many, will look at you and say, wait a minute, are you fixing to tell me something? What do you know to tell me? What do you know to tell me? I'm a white person. And you're black. Do you know anything to tell me that's worth listening to? Now, many white people have been taught to think that way. So you have to recognize that as a fact. That goes with the system of white supremacy. You are a black person in a system of white supremacy trying to tell a white person about what the real deal is about anything. When everything that you have ever learned, Negro, that's worth knowing, came from somebody white. That's the way many white people look at a black person. In other words, they're saying in so many words when they look at you. What are you talking to me for? Trying to teach me anything. You don't know enough to teach me anything. Because I get to the people who taught you. The people who taught you taught me before they taught you, boy, girl. See, that is in the mind of many a white person throughout this planet. You have to know that. Not guess about it. You have to know that and believe it. Because it's true. It's true. That's what white supremacy does. They get constructive information before you even hear about it. But anything that's a bunch of nonsense, you'll get a ton of that. Because they want black people's heads to be full of nothing but foolishness. So they'll help you with anything that's absolutely stupid. But they will hold in reserve anything that's absolutely precious. Anything that's really going to take you somewhere, that's going to empower you. You'll steer you away from it.
Wow. That was a powerful statement in itself. Yeah, that's a powerful statement. So, well, you can't basically the videos tell it for itself, and it shows the real deal how we see race in this country. And it's not just, I had to show the black people first, but the other people have to understand what time it really is. And even though still some people say we all Americans and da 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 da, yeah, we all Americans, but subconsciously I always say this: people see race. Remember that. They can say it with their actions, they can be kind, friendly to you, but subconsciously, some people don't even know what, and sometimes they don't even know why they're racist, because it's something was embedded into them. Sometimes it could be a situation where it could be a place of insecurity. That's basically what it is. But I have, basically break this down to you, because some people will be in denial and denial and deny, and you don't know what you're talking about. There might be some people out, but see, sometimes you got to put it in people's face, and don't sugarcoat it or nothing. Now let me give you an example of another place.
Growing up in New York, you could say I was a default liberal. My political opinions, to the extent I had them, weren't deeply thought out. They just were. My philosophy.
Every hour of every day she spent at the large financial institution where she works as an auditor.
You have to have these two separate lives.
Her life at home, where she was her whole self, and her life at work, where as the only black person in her department, the mask rendered her a shadow of herself.
There's already an idea of who you are. You have to always be conscious of how you present to other people.
Hands up!
Am I being too loud? Am I fitting into very specific stereotypes? If I come in and say, I'm having a hard day. I don't even know if I want to be here right now because another black person just got murdered. I don't think people really have the capacity to take on someone else's energy.
Would you call it isolating?
Most definitely.
It's an isolation that is painfully familiar to people of color in the workplace, from encountering racist jabs known as microaggressions to being overlooked for promotions. But some of that changed when the pandemic hit. A survey by the Slack think tank Future Forum found that black employees experienced less stress and their sense of belonging skyrocketed 50% once they started working from home.
Slack survey finds 97% of black knowledge workers want the future of the office to be remote or hybrid. Not surprising. I think people having gone through this past year and experiencing the constant cuts from microaggressions and the fatigue of living through the pandemic are just tired. And to go back to what they knew after having experienced some level of relief, don't want to go back to that.
For Tisha, working from home wasn't just an escape. It was a chance to be herself.
It was great to be in this sea of people.
To march with her family after George Floyd was killed.
Wanting to see change.
To unmask herself at work.
I volunteered and said, at where I work, I would like to do this. I wrote an article. The title of the article is Why is Self-Reflection Not Enough? Self-reflection is not enough if you want to be an ally.
What was it like bringing that part of yourself to your professional environment when that's normally not something that you do?
I think it was that gate that needed to be open. I do a lot of things outside of work, but then doing it at work really did help me bring more of myself forward, because I don't want to wear a mask. I do want to be my full authentic self. I want to be able to show up in any space with any person and be Tisha 100% all the way through.
That Slack study concluded, in order to give Black employees a greater sense of belonging, employers should embrace flexible work as part of their central principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We're hearing from a former Tesla employee who sued and won a discrimination lawsuit against the automaker. ABC News reporter Rebecca Jarvis has more on the racial abuse he endured.
We just want to be just treated and seen as equal human beings.
This morning, a former Tesla contract worker speaking out after a San Francisco federal court decided the electric car maker must pay him $137 million over claims he suffered racist abuse at the company. Owen Diaz, who was hired through a staffing agency in 2015 as an elevator operator at Tesla's factory in Fremont, told the court he faced a hostile work environment where employees drew swastikas and racist graffiti on bathroom stalls, where coworkers told him to go back to Africa, and ethnic slurs were heard routinely. Diaz says nothing was done to stop it, quitting after roughly 1 year on the job and ultimately suing.
They decided not to follow through. They decided to kill investigations. You know, you can't keep treating workers like this.
Now, Tesla, whose founder and CEO is Elon Musk, ordered to pay Diaz $130 million in punitive damages and $7 million in emotional distress. An unprecedented amount for racial discrimination cases.
A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. They have to choose to take the abuse that these billion-dollar companies are putting out or feed their families.
In an internal email to employees Monday following the verdict, posted on the company's website, Tesla's VP of People writing, although the facts they have of the case don't justify the verdict reached by the jury in San Francisco, we do recognize that in 2015 and 2016, we were not perfect. We're still not perfect, but we have come a long way from 5 years ago.
Hopefully it will make them change and make other companies change and realize racist conduct has no place in the workplace.
Particularly in job situations, they set black people up. One thing, many white supremacists have concluded that in most cases, or in many cases, black people, non-white people, act according to their emotions. So they know what buttons to push. They just about know when they're going to fire you and how they're going to go about doing it, because they know when they're going to make you angry. They know how to make you angry. They know how to make you laugh. They know how to get you to relax. They know how to get you uptight. So they say, okay, well, we're going to get rid of that fella today. So we'll have him come in and we'll start telling him this and telling him that and whatnot. We got our own strategies and whatnot. And we have been studying him, and we know that he has a temper. So at this point, this one thing, because white supremacists always study their victims, and they know more about their victims than the victims know about themselves, all right? The white supremacists know more about me than I will ever know about myself, all right? They make it their business to do that. So they can kind of predict behavior. And in job situations, when they get ready to get rid of a non-white person, they'll say, hey, what we'll do, we'll make him mad. Because we know what will make him mad. So, about 9 o'clock today, when he does this and whatnot, you go over and say to him this be fired. So we just set him up for that. He'll walk right into the trap.
Mm-hmm.
He won't be expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
And this happens all the time.
Yes.
See what I mean? So non-white people should be aware of this. When they get ready to get rid of you, everything is just fine, but now he's got a cousin that needs your job, and he says, hey, well, Henry, I mean, you know, that black guy down there, he's got that position, and he's doing an excellent job and all like that. Say, well, but my cousin needs that job. So how are we going to get rid of Henry and do it all nice and neat? Say, well, we'll make him angry. So you know how these people are. You know, they always got a chip on their shoulder and whatnot. They always want somebody to respect them. Mm-hmm. They're real big on respect. So if you say something that sounds like you're disrespecting them, he's going to go off. It's not going to be disrespect, because these black people don't even know what respect is. See, they just know what we have told them.
So they settle right.
They don't have a definition for respect. Mm-hmm. They think they do. Okay? So we'll have them play in our hands, just like they do with everything that we relate to them. That's why we are dominant. That's why we are white supremacists. And that's why they're always victims, because they do not think ahead. You know, they only think about how they feel at the moment. And we'll always use that against them, because they're very emotional people. You know, fly off the handle real quick. See what I mean? But you got to know what buttons to push, and we know what buttons to push because we understand them better than they understand themselves.
You're being set up. Yeah.
You know, when you run the kindergarten, I mean, you know your children, all right? And that's what the white supremacists look at the whole world of non-white people. They say, we know how to move these people around. They don't even know they're being moved around. You know, we know how to, you know, set them up for make them laugh like you wouldn't believe. And we know how to make them mad. I mean, just have them, storming around the place, knocking things over. We know how to do that. See, so we'll just orchestrate it. Anytime we want them to do anything, I mean, we know how to handle them. They don't know anything about how to handle us, even though they think they do. That's why they're in the position that they're in, and we're in the position that we're in. We're white supremacists, and they are victims of white supremacy, just like all their ancestors, because they didn't know anything either.
In a socio-material system dominated by racist white supremacists, all jobs that are established and or maintained by white people are dominated either directly or indirectly by those white people who practice racism, white supremacy. No person can be hired, fired, promoted, and or get in trouble on a job unless it is the will of the white supremacists. In addition, there is no such thing as a non-white person being a supervisor on a job in any socio-material system that is dominated by white supremacy. Only white people are supervisors. Non-white people, however, may have a supervisory title, but in truth, only serve as messengers or carriers.
Well, that's pretty much in a nutshell. And this is what you're encountering today when you're a non-white person. And just because no matter what you do, no matter if you just go along to look at somebody that look down on your own and you side with them, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you'll never be at the same level as them. They know that they use you. And in America, as he said, the white supremacy did this to all races of people. When they get over the Latinos, the natives, and the Africans, we have to be friends with them in order to get what we want out of them. When they went to go get the slaves, they find a couple sellout natives to come insist with them to come capture slaves. The same ones that probably would kind of put their own people in bondage. Same work, same plan. It's a history. And I always say this in history. Everything from generation to now. Everything just transformed into different light. So, the moral of the story is, so no matter what you are, I wanted to play that video by Nick because Nick is telling the truth. And see, with people like Nick Fuentes, they act out. They act out in a certain way. When they don't get their way, they act out. When that's why they're on the police force. That's why they're in different situations. And when they see another person that looks like them, they really don't want to go against them when it comes to oppose of another person of a different race. People don't want to, but they fight that resistance to do it. It's the truth. And some of them have even said it themselves. Some people who are white who admit it. And it kind of threw them off. Because they never imagined, because they it's like, hey, there's none of the people that oppose that look like us, because everybody that have the same genetic and heritage and makeup and everything. So when someone come into the demographic, even though they're different people, it's just you automatically taught to just stay with your own. And when you decide not to think like that, a white person don't think like the rest, they treat you with the worst. And you're like, why don't Uncle Jerry or Aunt where it's come from? We was getting along all the time. Because that friend you didn't bring wasn't around you. That non-white friend bring around. It changed the whole dynamic of everything. That's why. Because subconsciously it had an inner part of hatred and racism that was pushed down through the generations. That's why. That's why your friend or your relative was like that. And it's like we don't want to look at it. We deny it. We don't have that denial pill. Even some people who, even at some point, I used to think that, oh no, maybe just somebody just have, yeah, you can excuse something that is human behavior, but it's something subconsciously keep happening over and over, and they can't really make eye direct with you or connect with you. Is that so? But yet, it's put in play. The video speaks for itself, and how what people of color go through, even on the job. And see, when they reserve to have something, then the people don't understand why. Well, why do black people? Well, look at what kind of people's around you, and then it's like black people don't know which one's the good person, which one is not. When we don't know. I'm not excusing, not trying to say separation, but what do you do? What do you do to get away from an abuser? You separate yourself from the abuser. Whether he's abusing you mentally, verbally, or physically, or spiritually. So that's why. Case closed. But I just wanted to make this video. Hope this was education and maybe wake some other people up that come to America with that mindset. If you think you're going to be a part of the old boys club to be against us, you don't understand the politics of the game. Because it comes down to skin first, texture of the hair first, a certain part of Europe first. We here first, American first. You mean everybody, the whole makeup? No. American first. American first. Blonde hair, blue eyes, green eyes, brown hair. American first. Like Santa Claus and Easter Bunny. American first. That's what it means. Alright then, ladies and gentlemen, hope you see this video. Some of you might not like it, but the ones that's conscious waking up, you know what I'm talking about. Alright then, take care, be blessed, see you on the next video. Like and subscribe. Take care.